In the previous video, we added the HTML for the page banner on the single post page. In this video, we are going to be designing that page banner using CSS in order to get it to look like what we have on the finished project here. Alright, but before we start writing the CSS, I want us to make a tiny modification on the HTML. So I'm going to select the entire page banner HTML code, select all of it, I cut, and then I make sure that I place it outside of the page container. Okay, so I paste it outside of the page container so that the page container now appears below it. The reason I am doing this is the page banner, if you check the finished project, fills up the entire width of the screen, whereas in our CSS we had given a limited width to the page container. So the page container has a width of only 1200 pixels. So if we left our page banner within it, we will not be able to get it to fill the entire width, as you can see this gray area here. Alright, so now that we have removed it, we can now select it in our CSS and give it a width of 100% and style it from there. Okay, so at the very end of this file, just after the media query for footer, we're going to add a comment to indicate where our single page styles begin, single post page styles begin, and we'll begin by styling the page banner for that. And for this we'll give it a width of 100%, a height of auto. We are giving it a height of auto so that the height should be able to adjust depending on the content within it, because some of these articles might have very long titles and we want the height of the banner to adjust to accommodate those long titles. While we are on the height issue, let's make sure we set the minimum height to 300 pixels. And then lastly, we'll set a background color of this slightly grayish color. Okay, so if we reload, this is what we get. Okay, it's still too early to look at how it looks on our browser. The next step is to select the page container, rather the banner container that appears just after the page banner. Okay, so that banner container is the element on which we will restrict our width. We'll give it a max width of 1200 pixels and we make sure we centralize it. So when we do margin 0 auto, it will give it 0 pixels of margin at the top and then centralize it horizontally. We will set the height to inherit so that it gets the same height as its parent. And lastly, we will display it using flex. We are displaying it using flex because the two child elements within it are going to be split horizontally like this. Okay, and those two child elements, if you take a look at the CSS, is actually the left box and the right box. So let's select those in our CSS. So I'm duplicating the star or the selector for banner container, and then I'm selecting the left box within that. I will duplicate this star and modify it for the right box as well. So as seen on the finished project, the left box takes up about 60% of the width that's available, while the right box takes the remaining 40%. And remember, since we are displaying the parent element using flex, we are going to be using flex spaces to specify the width. In this case, 60% for the left box, and then for the right box we have the remaining 40%. Okay, let's make sure we give a padding of 32 pixels on each of these boxes. Now I believe if we refresh, we are going to see a basic shape or structure. and I believe it is already showing. It's just that for some reason since we haven't applied styles for images, our image, the featured image, is not yet displaying. So we are definitely beginning with the styles for the left box. Let us select the title within that. That's the banner title. We'll give it a font size of, let me see, 2 rem, and then a margin at the top of 32 pixels. Okay, so this is the size that we want for the title. The next thing is the post details, and I am referring to the div element that wraps the author information and the social media share links. So let us select that. I'm going to duplicate the style for, or the selector for banner title, and we are going to modify it to point or to pick the post details class instead. So the post details element is going to display both components or both elements at the extreme ends of its width. So we are going to display this using flex, and then we'll set justify content to space between. Let's make sure there is also a margin at the top between this post details section and the title we just defined. Let us refresh this. Okay, I think these images, it's high time we limited their sizes in order to have a sane or a normal working environment. So I'm just going to go ahead and select them. Let us take a look at their HTML. So basically we have IMG or image elements within the social links class. So and that is still in the left box. So let me get the selector for the left box. Then I'll pick social links and the IMG or image tag within that. We'll set a width of 30 pixels and a height of 30 pixels as well. And then we make sure the margin at the left is about, let's say, 8 pixels. Okay, so we refresh and they have reduced in size. Let us set text decoration to none. Because you can see the blue underline effect here. That's because we are surrounding the icons within link tags. So I'm just going to select these link tags and set a class of td none to them. This will set text decoration to none, and therefore the underline effect will no longer appear. Now you notice that the share text is actually appearing at the bottom line of the icons, but we want it to be at the same vertical level with the icons like we see here. So in order to do that, we will select the parent for both of them. Okay, so let me duplicate this, and then we are selecting the social skills, which is their parent. We'll display using flex and then align items center, and when we do that, it should be aligned to the same level. Okay, now the one that's causing the disruption is the avatar, so let us reduce its size as well. So we will basically do a similar thing for that. We will select auto wrapper, and then let me give a class of avatar within that. Okay, so auto wrapper is within post details, so I will duplicate the styles for post details, and then I'll pick auto wrapper, or did I pick that right? Okay, yeah, auto wrapper, and then we will get the avatar within that. We will set the width to 40 pixels because it's going to be a bit larger, and then the height to 40 pixels as well, and then we'll set the border radius to about 50% to make sure we achieve a perfectly round image. Let's go back to our browser and refresh, and this is beginning to take shape. So now the avatar is displaying on top of this other information like the name and the date, but we want them to display horizontally, the image to the left and the name and so on to the right, the same way we see it here. Okay, to achieve that, we will just give their parent a display of flex, and the parent for this is, I think it's the name wrapper. Let me see, it's actually author wrapper. Okay, so we look for author wrapper. This is it, and then we display it using flex, and then let us refresh, and this is what it looks like. I think we can give, let me see, for the avatar we can give it a margin at the right of 8 pixels. And coming back to the author wrapper, we are going to select something within that. This is the author wrapper, and then this is the name wrapper. We want the contents of the name wrapper to be displayed vertically. So we will select that author wrapper, and we pick the name wrapper within it and set display to flex and flex direction to colon so that the text will stack vertically. Okay, this is what it looks like. And then now the last thing we need to do is make sure that this text is a little bit lighter in its color, and we had already defined a class called gray1 for that. So I'm just going to copy this class and then go to the HTML and assign it to this small element. Okay, when you do that and refresh, we get the lightly blurred or grayish color. I'm going to unset this color here, this bluish color on the username. So I will simply just add a TD none, because I thought TD none is going to unset the color. Okay, that doesn't work, so I'm just going to pick it in our styles. Let me scroll down. The name wrapper, I will set the color to unset. Still doesn't work. Might be better off just selecting that particular element. This is a bit of rough work, but it doesn't hurt to. Okay, we unset the color and it looks better now. And that's it for the left box. The next thing we are styling now is the right box, where we display the featured image. And this one is going to be very straightforward. Alright, so let us take a look at the HTML. So we simply have a class of featured image wrapper inside the right box. So we'll go to our CSS. We duplicate the selector for right box because our featured image is inside that. And then we pick specifically the featured image wrapper. And remember, this is the element on which we are actually displaying the image. Alright, we will make sure that it takes a width of 100%. That is, it covers the entire 40% for the right box. And then we make sure we set the height to 300 pixels. Not 300%, 300 pixels. And back on our browser, when we refresh, this is what it looks like. Alright, and this brings us to the end of this video. We're going to continue in the next one.